The first thing I remember is the sound, not the television's dialogue or music, but the thin, steady hiss that filled the room like breath. If you knew that sound, you would know how small I felt the night it started. I was 8, barefoot on cold linoleum, the kind of half-warm house where the heater clicked off and rooms remembered the last person who had been in them. My parents slept 2 rooms over. Their voices were muffled and safe, like a closed door. I told myself I was only watching the late-night channels because the house felt too big in the dark. I lied to myself because the glow from the set made a circle on the wall, a pale, static moon, and I was afraid of losing it. The television was an old box my father had dragged home from a garage sale. Curved glass, a dent at the top, a smell of plastic warmed for too long. It hummed constantly at that pitch just below hearing, the sort of frequency that makes the skin on the back of your neck tingle. The remote did the usual chores of light and noise, but on that night, the channel had gone dead and refused to be commanded back. The screen filled with dancing snow, tiny flecks of gray that never settled into a picture. It should have been nothing. Static should have been nothing, but it wasn't nothing to me. I sat close enough to the glass that the light stained my pupils. My chest was small and my hands smaller. I remember the way the little hairs on my arms stuck up, as if tiny magnets beneath the skin were feeling the field. There was a smell I can't mistake: stale popcorn, dust, a faint ozone like the air after someone fries something and the smoke alarm doesn't notice. Every few minutes, the static would thicken, as if someone were rubbing their hands through a bowl of salt and pepper. Sometimes the noise would stutter, like a breath held too long. And in that pause, I learned to listen. In that pause, the house became a room full of possibilities I didn't yet have words for. At first, it was shapes. Shapes that weren't shapes, really. Smudges and lines that tried to assemble into faces and then broke themselves apart. I'd see the suggestion of an eye 1 second, and the static would swallow it the next. Once, a corner of the screen seemed to darken in a way the rest did not. A shadow that wasn't the shadow of anything in the room. I leaned forward, breath fogging the glass in front of me, and I told myself my brain was doing tricks. Children have hungry imaginations. Children invent monsters to keep company. But the thing about hunger is that it can be taught. When you feed it a little, it learns to ask for more. The first real oddity was not something I saw, but something I felt. The room had a temperature, yes, but from the television there came a pressure, like a gentle hand pressing down on the crown of my head. It made my ears pop and the back of my teeth ache as if I had climbed a hill too fast. I remember thinking I should move away, but my body refused, as though my spine had been magnetized to the plastic casing. The static seemed to pulse in time with my small, frightened heart. Then the sound shifted. Under the hiss, for just a sliver of a second, there came a pattern, not words, but a rhythm, a soft, repetitive click underneath the white noise, like a tape rewinding, like someone tapping a pencil against a desk. I cannot tell you why I understood, in that small child's gut, that the click wasn't random. It felt deliberate, like a knock at a door you don't want to open but cannot ignore. My hand found the edge of the cabinet, nails digging into varnish. The television kept its steady, indifferent glow, and the static looked back as if it had been waiting for me to notice. I didn't turn the TV off. I should have. I should have gone back to my room, pulled the blanket over my head, and forced myself to sleep. But I didn't. Something about that glow pinned me there, the way a moth circles a flame, even when its wings begin to burn. The clicking sound returned, stronger now, layered beneath the hiss, a steady rhythm, like someone drumming their fingers on the other side of the glass. Tap, 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 tap. My 8-year-old brain tried to make sense of it, but deep inside, I already knew. It wasn't broken circuitry or random interference. Someone was knocking from inside the static. I leaned closer, my breath warm against the cold screen, and that's when I saw it. A shape began to coalesce in the snow. Not just a smudge this time, but the clear outline of a hand. Pale, stretched fingers pressing against the inside of the screen as if the glass were a thin sheet of ice. I froze. The hand didn't move naturally. It jittered, as though it belonged to a broken puppet, flickering in and out of the static. And then came the whisper, soft, almost below hearing. My name, my actual name. drawn out like a sigh, tangled in the hiss of the snow. I stumbled back, my chair scraping the floor, but my eyes never left the television. It whispered again, clearer this time. A voice that sounded both male and female, both young and impossibly old, as if every frequency of human speech were layered together into one impossible sound. I told myself it was a trick, some late-night broadcast my old TV was picking up by mistake. But in my heart, I knew no channel ever spoke like that. The static began to change. Not random, not chaotic. It was moving with intent, swirling into darker patches that looked almost like doorways, places that went deeper than the glass allowed. For a moment, I saw faces forming in the noise. Dozens of them. Mouths stretched open in silent screams. Eyes staring too wide. They pressed forward, pushing against the barrier, then dissolved back into snow before I could blink. The room grew colder. My teeth chattered, though. I wasn't aware of being cold until I touched my arm. My skin was like ice. The smell of ozone thickened, sharp enough to sting the back of my throat. The pressure in the room increased, pressing down on me from all sides. It felt like the television wasn't just showing images anymore, it was breathing. The hiss rose and fell like lungs filling and emptying. Then, all at once, the knocking stopped. The whispers fell silent. The static froze mid-flicker, as though the picture had been paused. And in the center of the screen, through the shifting snow, a figure emerged. Not a hand this time, not a fleeting shadow, a full silhouette. It was shaped like a person, standing in the static, its body nothing more than darkness outlined by white noise. I couldn't see a face, but I could feel its attention. It was looking at me, studying me, and then, God help me, it leaned forward. The silhouette tilted its head closer to the glass, as though it wanted to press its face against mine. I swear I felt the heat of its breath against my skin, though there was nothing there. My chest tightened so much I thought I'd stop breathing altogether. That was when I realized this wasn't a show. This wasn't a program I had stumbled on. The television wasn't broadcasting. It was listening. It had been waiting for me to answer. I wish I could tell you I ran, that I screamed or unplugged the set or woke my parents. But the truth is, I didn't move. I couldn't. The weight of that thing's gaze held me still, like a pinned insect under glass. My legs shook, but they wouldn't obey. My fingers clung to the edge of the chair so tightly that splinters bit into my skin, yet I didn't feel the pain. The figure inside the static leaned closer, slowly, patiently, as if it had all the time in the world. The screen crackled, lines bending and twisting, and I thought I saw its mouth open. Only it wasn't really a mouth. It was an absence, a widening void that swallowed the snow around it. The sound changed. The hiss broke apart into something wetter, heavier, a gurgle, a groan, and then it spoke. Not in whispers this time, not faint or distorted. Its voice filled the room, pressing against my skull from the inside. I see you. The words weren't just heard, they were felt, vibrating deep in my chest like a second heartbeat. The glass pulsed outward, just a fraction, like a bubble about to pop. My reflection disappeared, swallowed by the figure's silhouette. And in that moment, I understood something a child should never understand. The television wasn't a window, it was a doorway, and it wanted me to step through. The pressure in the room tightened, pushing me forward. My knees left the chair without my permission, carrying me closer. I remember the taste of metal on my tongue, like I'd bitten down on a coin. The smell of burning dust, the static brushing against my skin like invisible hands. My face was inches from the glass when a sound cut through it, a slam. My father's bedroom door opening down the hall, his footsteps heavy on the floorboards. The figure snapped back into the static, dissolving into meaningless snow as though it had never been there. The pressure vanished, the air warmed. The television hissed quietly, innocently, like it had all along. I turned the set off before my father reached the living room. He found me pale, trembling, but said nothing. Just sent me back to bed. I didn't tell him. I never told anyone. But I remember. I remember because it wasn't the last time. For years after, whenever I woke past midnight, I felt the pull. Sometimes I swore I heard the faint clicking again, beneath the silence of the house. Sometimes, when I walked past the living room, I saw the glow seeping out from the cracks around the TV's frame, even though it wasn't plugged in anymore. And now, even as an adult, when I close my eyes, I can still hear it. That same voice, that same invitation. I see you.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.